And welcome back to Major Impact. It is June and summer is around the corner, so it's time to get inspired and get the most out of this vibrant season. I am super excited. Joining us today is the incredible Christal Luster. She is a TV personality, influencer, speaker, and the CEO of Crystal Clear Productions. Crystal has made a significant mark in the entertainment industry with her dynamic presence and innovative projects. Her journey is nothing short of inspiring. Crystal, welcome to the show, love.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, this is exciting. I'm super excited to hear more of your story. So let's hop right into it. Crystal, they say you are like the Beyonce of influencers, slaying the game. So can you spill the tea on how you went from being a social media novice to a bona fide influencer extraordinaire? Because our viewers definitely want to know.
Well, it's so funny. Like so many other millennials during the pandemic, I started out on TikTok. Now, the backstory that a lot of people don't know is that I've been doing social media and content creation for years. I started out really heavy in music and then, started coming up with like different skits and stuff, but I didn't really know how to conceptualize it and retrofit it for social media until the pandemic. And I stumbled out trying to figure out what is this TikTok thing. And I remember I had a video go viral, and the next thing I know, Tabitha Brown was in my comments, and I was freaking out. I'm like, "Whoa, Auntie Tab is like related." She was like, "How I can relate?" And it was so funny because being a traditional creative, I'm thinking like, "Oh, I have to do everything a certain kind of way, have a certain kind of quality," and it was the most like unpackaged video I'd ever done. It took me like 15 seconds to do, popped it out there, and then it's got like 40,000 views. And these celebrities are commenting how they can relate, and I was like, whoa, how can I duplicate this? And so I basically just kind of kept working a formula, understanding trends, understanding how the communication happens on the different platforms, what people care about, and how to just keep rejoining that conversation. And before I knew it, within a matter of 8 months, I had grown my TikTok from about 40,000 followers to 400,000 followers. And then in the last year, I grew my following from about 780,000 across my platforms to over 1.6 million.
You better go ahead. You
Woo!
better go ahead. And what I love about your journey is that you shared that the very first time the video went viral, you didn't spend hours and hours agonizing over it. It was just some content you put over, but the key is that you maximized on it. Then you were like, let me go ahead and keep be consistent. Let me see how I interact. And I think that's a key thing that you may not necessarily know what's going to go viral, but then maximizing on that time, that opportunity. And we love us some Miss Tabitha, okay?
So
Yeah,
I love
Ooh,
it.
that's
And
right.
thank you for sharing that story.
Yes,
absolutely.
when you can relate to everybody, that is a games changer. So let me ask you, how'd you grow your social media following without resorting to paid ads?
I'm gonna be really honest with you. Back in the day, before TikTok was a big thing, I did pay for followers. I'm talking about like 10 years ago because I was so desperate to like grow my platform, especially as an artist back then. And of course, that looks good for like a second because you jumped from like 500 followers to 10,000 followers. But then Instagram at the time started cleaning up and it started dropping, 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 and you back to square one. And so I was determined not to do that this time. And what I realized was that just showing up as myself was really the secret sauce. And that's why I don't mind telling people about my journey and about being authentic because no one can compete with me because I'm the only me. And that's really everybody's secret sauce. Just be yourself.
Absolutely love it. I absolutely love it. And I love the fact that you're being transparent about I made some mistakes and then I cleaned that up and I never did it again. This is what you can do, which actually leads me into my next question. Because what tips do you have today for someone who's actually looking to grow their platforms, but they may have kind of missed that COVID follower boost where everybody was sitting at home just looking at all social media. So what tips do you have for people to grow today?
So I definitely recommend, even to people that I do like some corporate coaching on building a social media following. People are hungry and desperate for authenticity. There's a lot of like, fakeness out there, and there's this idea of what a social media influencer looks like, and they live this glamorous life. Listen, I go to work, I work hard. It is not super glamorous all the time. There are some very low days, very hard days. So just sharing your journey, because right now I think what the pandemic really highlighted is that one, the world is a lot smaller than we think it is. Just because somebody lives across the ocean or something like that doesn't mean that they aren't experiencing the same things that you experience. But then also, because of that, people want to really resonate with somebody who sees them and makes them feel validated. So showing up as yourself, like I said before, that was like the one of the biggest things, is just being yourself. But then also understanding how the different apps work and what people are talking about. If you're just kind of jumping into it, do some research, scroll a little bit and see what's trending, see what people are talking about. That's a good way to get into the conversation. Because as we say, Juneteenth is coming up. How you sticking your fingers in the Kool-Aid and you don't know what flavor it is? You know what I'm saying? Taste test. Taste test.
I love it.
I love that. Christal, we have heard that your social media channels are basically cash cows. So let's talk monetization, because how have you been able to turn posts into profit? And give us all the tea, boo. Like, I want to know why and how are you raking in the dough and still being able to be authentic to your brand? Because you talk so much about authenticity today.
Okay, so I want to go ahead and bust a myth real quick, right? A lot of people were, and it is still kind of floating around now about, how much money you can make from the apps themselves. And like I will say, there have been pockets where you make a good amount of money from the app itself. TikTok probably brought in the most amount of money in the last 6 months when it comes to their creator fund program. There are qualifications. You have to have a certain amount of followers and have a certain amount of engagement and different things like that. Instagram and Meta has brought back in their bonuses, and so, but it's not as easy. Like, I had a huge following. I think I had well over 400,000 followers before I got invited, but I also had friends who had a significantly smaller account that got invited to the bonus program. So needless to say, there are variables there that are controlled by the powers that be. The real way to monetize your platforms, right? Engagement is incredibly important. It's not necessarily about followers. If you have 100,000 followers, but only 2 people are liking your post, or like only 10 people are commenting on your post, that does not translate $2 for a company. It's about an investment, right? You're essentially selling marketing spots, advertising spots on your channel. And so partnerships is really the real way to bring in significant amount of money, partnering with big brands, companies to push their products. It's just like cable television. If there's product placement in a show or in a movie, or if there's a commercial that runs through the program, that's essentially what social media has turned into. There's a love-hate relationship with it, but hey, your girl gotta eat, right? And so my biggest thing is my authenticity is what gains me the trust of my audience. And because I have that, that means if I suggest something to them, they're more likely to take my advice, which makes me valuable to marketers who want to use my platform to reach their target audience.
Yes, yes, I see that. Okay. So let's break that down a little bit more for someone who is an action taker and they're going to watch this episode and take action. So break that down for us. If I started today, what specific steps do I need to take my social media and my brand and turn it into a business?
So there are a couple things that I always recommend. One, I think that you have to think about starting from the end, your end goal. So for example, when I first started really paying attention to this as not just something to do on the weekends, but like a lifestyle choice, a career move, I wanted to look at what kind of brands do I want to work with in the end of things, like when I'm really established and I'm really growing. And because of that, I worked backwards and understood that my type of brand is very family friendly. That it speaks to who I am as a person, but it also speaks to the brands that I want to align myself with. So if I want to work with, something like Target is a company that I want to do some work with in the future. Target has a very family friendly brand, a very inclusive brand. They're very fun. They're very approachable. And so like I probably wouldn't put out content that's just like, constantly saying expletive, and no clothes on, and spewing hate and all those different things, because it doesn't align with their brand. So I will work backwards and take into consideration who you want to align yourself with so that you can match their target audience, but you also, it makes a good fit from their perspective.
You broke it all the way down, okay?
Okay,
Thank you
good.
so much. We really appreciate you being with us today. So if nobody missed it, can you just tell us again, how can our followers work with you directly?
Please, please, please connect with me on all social media platforms at Christal Luster. It is the shiniest name that you will ever see. That's how I tell people to remember it. And you can also reach me at ChrystalLuster.com.
Stay with us and we will be right back with Bianca is King.
Hey, beautiful people, it's Major Mr. This is why I love you. And you are watching the Connect Network TV.